This meeting is being recorded.
Yep. Good morning, everyone. So yesterday we learnt about working with material UI, how to use material UI. So what is the concept of material UI and how to use material UI? So actually, material UI usually, as I already told you, it provides both UI and UX components. Have you tried any additional one? Huh? So what you designed, anyone? Already I showed you a button and a text field input, right? Cards, calendars, any other components you can try. So I they are present in both JavaScript as well as in TypeScript. Both. I will show one more simple point. So because while working with these third parties, one problem you will face is these third parties usually have some dependency also. Dependencies means you added a library, that library needs some other library support. If you miss that supporting library, it will not work. And unfortunately, in the documentations, sometimes that is not clearly mentioned. That means even in their official documentation, it is not clearly mentioned about all dependencies. That's the reason what happens is when runtime, it comes with some errors. So we need to observe those errors. And if error is related to, suppose if you have an error and if error is related to in error, it is showing provider error. If it is showing provider error anywhere it is showing provider error. That means some dependency is missing. If it is showing some adapter error, usually when you are using third parties, these two errors are very common. Provider error, adapter error. Provider error means you are missing the provider description. Generally, where we need to define the provider description, you remembered I used a cookie provider context provider. At higher level, we have to mention the providers, means in index.js. Adapter provider errors means some dependencies are missing and provider is not mentioned. Dependencies means some relative libraries are missing. So we will see one example, then you will understand here. Actually, in the material UI, here some handle change. Search.jsx. Here handle change we given. I will remove this. So usually yesterday we designed this one. We have two options. One is the material UI, another one is Bootstrap. As you saw, functionality is same. There is no change in the functionality. Let's see another component. So we will open this MUI and we will go to the products MUI core. And in the products MUI core, we will go to these MUI components, get started, and you will see the list of all the components that we have. In the components, suppose I want to use a component like a calendar. So we have some components like calendar. You can see these are all inbuilt available. So the component integrations, there are some more components here. Let's see. These are experimental migrations. You have a date time pickers are there. One data grid is present. Data grid, if you remembered, we designed a data grid by ourselves. I showed you sort, filter, we added the data grid by ourselves. These people already have a data grid. You see, they have a data grid. And this data grid already having those options, same like filter, sort. If you remembered, I showed you this, we manually designed. But here functionality is also assigned. Functionality also assigned. What you have to do, you have to implement this in your project. And this grid related all the logic is given here. That means how to set the grid and what is the data you need to pass. And rest of options, everything is simple actually. Row height, how much? Do you want a selection? And this data grid is not a free one. It is a paid one. Because these pro plans are premium. We cannot use freely. You have to buy and use them. So, but like this data grid, we already created one option. Now, in MUI, yesterday I showed you MUI components. Yesterday I showed you MUI components. You try other MUI components. So I showed you input. We used a button. You can have cards. You can have dialogues. So many are there. Even nav bars, badges. Same like Bootstrap will be there. You try others. Today I will show you one more MUIX component. MUIX component, we have a date picker. We have a date picker. So how to use this date pickers, work with date pickers. So we will see today this one, how to use one MUIX. because these are all premium services. If you want to use more, then you have to buy. Basics, they will give you free, but more you have to buy and use them. But if you know the technique, it is easy to handle. So first we will see how to use a date picker. We will go to this MUIX. You see, this is MUIX. In that we have date time pickers. They also have charts. These days, these charts are used very much for designing dashboards. Like at project, in one project dashboard we will create, and we will try to use this. So let's go to date picker, date and time pickers. And you see date and time pickers. To use date and time pickers, you need a separate installation. MUI components are directly available with Material UI, Emotion Style, Emotion React. But UX components need separate libraries. You have to install separate library. So what we need to do here is this MUIX date picker. First important, MUIX requires individual library to set up. So requires individual library to set up for UI and UX. We have to set up UI and UX. Every UI UX component have its own dependencies. So its own dependencies which you have to install and configure in project. If you miss these dependencies, they don't work. So let's see how to do that. For a date picker, install the following library for a date picker. You have to install the library for date picker. And what is the library they give here? So for date picker, this is the library, npm install date pickers. That is the library. @muix date picker. You need to set up the MUIX date pickers. Now, if you remembered in the data binding concept, I told you that we have issues in presenting dates. JavaScript date functions, date methods will not work directly like JavaScript in our React. What we use to present dates in a proper format, what we use, we used a date related adapter. Remembered which one we use for displaying dates in a proper format, in our own format? Which date adapter we use? We have a lot of date adapters. We used a date adapter called moment. Remembered? So moment is used to display date and time in a format. So we used moment, right? Like moment, I showed a list also. Day.js, moment. These are used for displaying the dates in a proper format. So these date pickers requires that special adapter also. So you have to install any one of the date adapters, like adapters, like what are the date adapters we have? Day.js. So we have Day.js, Luxon, we have moment. So moment, here they have date FNS. You can use any of these adapters, Day.js, Luxon, moment, date FNS, anything you can use. So you need the adapter to set up. Dates require a special adapter. So you have to set up this. So what we need to do, I think I already showed you moment. So Day.js we will install here. One more, I am installing Day.js. That is the adapter. So you need Day.js. Date adapters are required. So date adapters. So adapters are required. Date adapters are required to display date and time values in in custom formats. So we use these for manipulating the dates and displaying date and time values in custom format. So these are required. So according to this, we are installing and setting up here. So I will copy this. In our project, we will set up that adapter here. First, we will install date pickers. MUIX date pickers we are installing. And here we will install npm install day.js. This is also installed. Now, once you configured this, so now where to configure the adapters? So in the design, you can see once you install the adapters and where to configure the adapters. You see the adapters we need to configure in the main component. We have to use a localization provider. This localization provider will come from date pickers. And we need to set up the adapter. And adapter is adapter day.js. That is the adapter. These components require such dependencies. You need to set up these dependencies. That means you have to use a localization provider which uses data adapter. Localization provider is for identifying the region and language that you are using according to the region and language, it is going to display the date formats, date and time format. Region and language like English India, English US, different region and language. So after you install, you have to set up a localization provider and which uses the date adapter. So what is the next point is to use date pickers, date picker in a component. To use date picker in a component, you have to configure localization provider. You have to configure localization provider with the date adapter. So with the date adapter is will be date.js. That is the date adapter we need to configure. Localization provider with that. To use date picker in a component, you have to configure localization provider. So here we have to define this in which location. Actually, index.js is good, or individually for every component also you can write. That is risky because if I am using in several places, then better you configure in index.js. So what we have to do, go to index.js file, and here we have to import. This you need to keep in another one. What is it? Localization provider. You have to set up localization provider. And we have to import another one. We have to import. So adapter day.js. Adapter day.js from, so we have adapter day.js. Day.js is the adapter. From here you need to configure. So we need to use this one. Make sure capitalization adapter day.js. It is in directly adapter day.js only, right? Adapter day.js directly in date picker adapter. So this provider have to use what? This provider have to use the date adapter, and date adapter is which one? Adapter day.js. That is the option we need to set up. And here we are giving startup is fake store index. That is the startup we are using. Now, generally, once you configure this, I will copy this code. In index.js, we need to import these two, and we need to set the localization provider. That's what we need to do in index.js. Now, once you do this, you can use the date picker anywhere you want. And how to use the date picker in any place? Just you have a simple option. What is it? Date picker. But to use this simple option, lot of setup is required. If you don't use that, then it will not allow to use the functionalities. So you see, I am going to some component. Let's go to the component here. Suppose I have, just home component itself. Here we want to use the date picker. So what we are using, we are importing. So which one? Date picker. We are importing date picker from MUIX date pickers. And we want to use a date picker here. I will just keep a div. So here we are accessing a date picker here. That's simple date picker is defined. Now let's go and see the home page. In the home page, the date picker should display here. This is the date picker. And in the date picker, you can click the calendar, you can select a date, and you can choose the date. Now, actually, accessing the date, using the date, same, because it is just like a text box on change. E dot target dot value will get the date, which date they selected. Now, many times you may have a doubt like why I need this, because already in HTML we have input type date. Because these are more enhanced, you know, your input type date will not allow to select range of dates. You cannot select a range of dates. You can select only one date. If I have to select a range of dates, then it's not possible. These pickers will provide more facilities. They will provide more facilities. Actually, here currently I used only ordinary date picker. There is another one. What is it? Date range picker. You can see there is a date range picker. What is the difference? This date picker is a simple date. This range picker allows you to select a range of dates. It allows you to select a range of dates. But for this date range picker, we need some more setup here. You see, this is the date range picker. And for the date range picker, you need to use some more options. You need to set up some more options. What components are available, how to use them, you can see that. For example, I click here. What is this? Checkout date, check-in date, and we have a checkout date. It will automatically choose. This is not possible in our general HTML. And you can design such things easily. Actually, you just need one more. What is it? Date range picker. And when you look into the API, that means you need to understand how it works, then go to API. In the API, date range calendar, date range picker, and you see date range picker API will tell you what to import. You have to import date range picker from this particular location. And usually it is a pro service. That means it is a paid. Even if now if you try it don't work. So, but in your companies, they will purchase the premium service. Then you can just import it and use it. So here we cannot learn everything just because they are all premium services. We need to buy and use this. And once you know how to use a free component, the paid services also same. Only the point is they have more features. Those all more features you have to explore and you have to learn by yourself. Third parties are not concepts that anybody teaches you and you learn. Third parties you have to adapt, you have to implement by yourself because every third party changes. It is no guarantee that the projects of React are using MUI only. Many projects don't use MUI. They use general bootstrap and Telerik like third parties. I have showed you so many are there. We have Telerik, we have DevExpress. You know, DevExpress is also very popular in providing components. I showed you only this one, Telerik. This is DevExpress. DevExpress is also very popular for its components, but these are all paid services. These are all paid services. They provide very high level options, right? But these are all premium services. Depending on technology again, that means people who are Java and React, their third party is different. .NET React, third party is different because .NET people use which are compatible with .NET. Java people use which are compatible with Java. That is the reason we can't guarantee which one the company uses. You have to explore by yourself. I just give an idea of two things. Just how to implement this, you have to import date picker and use it. So what we have to do in your component, so import and use date picker. Just we have to import and use the date picker. That's it. But before doing that, all the configuration is compulsory. If you miss any one, it will not work. That means set up the adapters, providers, everything is mandatory. So if you miss the adapter, if you miss the provider, then it cannot use it. Implementation is very simple, but the configuration for that implementation is complex. That is where everyone fails because they miss some dependencies. They miss configuration of providers, then problem will come. Right? So you have to try the components. Anyhow, some components I will use in one project that we design so that you can see this implementation. But individually, you try those components, cards, models, nav bars, ready-made are there, you try them. So I showed one few example, one on UI, another one on UX. These are two different components usually we have. So once you know about how to use these UI and UX components, now we can start building one application with these combinations. That means whatever we learned. So now actually you are completely aware of all the concept of React, style binding, class binding, event binding, data binding. So how to use hooks, what is the life cycle, function components, class components, everything you know. Styling with material UI, everything now you know. Now you are ready to build the projects. But we have two choices. We can build an application with JavaScript or we can build with TypeScript. So two choices are there. So first we will build an application with one JavaScript, later one with the TypeScript. We will do two backend, front end, all integrations we will do. So once you are aware of all the React concepts on JavaScript, now we need to understand the language of what? TypeScript. We need to understand the language of TypeScript. Then we can use both for building projects, either JavaScript or TypeScript too. Now, because already you know JavaScript, in TypeScript, what is new? What are the new concepts you need to understand? It is easy because just comparison you have to learn here, then easily you can handle. So first point, today we will see what is actually concept of TypeScript and how it works. Then we will implement that in our React project. Because when you are developing a React project, it is separately constructed by using TypeScript as language. That means in the current project, I cannot use TypeScript. We have to design a project with TypeScript as language. For that, we need to create another React project. So which uses TypeScript as language. Currently, our React is using JavaScript. For that, first you need to understand TypeScript. What is this TypeScript and how it works? In current projects, some companies are using JavaScript, some are using TypeScript. So it is important in resume to mention that I know React with both JavaScript and TypeScript. Actually, for Angular people, also earlier they used to have a choice, but from past few years there is no choice. They have to build only with TypeScript. There is no JavaScript. Earlier we have. In the beginning of Angular, we used to have Angular with JavaScript, Angular with TypeScript, but later there is no choice. Only TypeScript. They don't have JavaScript. But React, we have a choice. Majority companies projects are using JavaScript. Some others are going with TypeScript. So what is the point we will see? What are the issues with JavaScript? To understand this TypeScript, first you need to understand the issues with the JavaScript, which you may learnt already in JavaScript. What are the problems in JavaScript? JavaScript, it is not strongly typed language. JavaScript is not strongly typed language. Strongly typed language, that means data type determination will be determined according to the value you assign. There is no fixed data type like integer, number, string. So in a variable, you can store any kind of data and you can shadow or you can assign any another type of data. There is no data type restriction. So it is not strongly typed. It is not implicitly strictly typed. It is not implicitly strictly typed. What is difference between strongly typed and strictly typed? That is very popular question in React interviews. In React interviews for freshers, many times we have seen people asking this question to freshers. What is difference between strongly typed and strictly typed? Strongly typed is about the data types. Strictly typed is about the rules of programming. If a developer violates the rules of programming, then strictly typed will warn him. Strictly typed will not allow. That means, in JavaScript, we have to turn on strict mode. How to turn on strict mode? Use strict. We have to turn on the strict mode explicitly. Internally, it is not strict. Explicitly, we have to turn on the strict mode to avoid code inconsistency. But explicitly, we can do it. So it is not strongly typed. It is not strictly typed. Another problem we face with JavaScript is it is not an OOP language. It is not an OOP language, but it supports some features of OOPs. That means what are the problems? Extensibility issues will be there. That means it is not truly extensible completely. Another code level security issues will be there. Code level security issues also will be there. Code level security issues will be there. So JavaScript is not a OOP language. JavaScript supports some concepts of OOP, object-oriented programming. So we have extensibility issues. We have code level security issues. So JavaScript is not very much satisfying to a developer at high level when he is building application at large scale. So because JavaScript have a lot of issues like these. To handle these issues, we need one language. So to handle these issues. But what is point? Browser can understand only JavaScript. A browser can use only one language. And what is that language? JavaScript. It can understand only JavaScript. But we have problems with JavaScript. Actually, to overcome those problems, what happened is, I will just give you a small brief history actually. Actually, Google people started a language called EtScript. They started a language called EtScript. Several years back, they started a language called EtScript because they were facing problems with JavaScript because they are using JavaScript in a Angular technology. In their Angular library framework, they were using JavaScript and they were facing problems with JavaScript. The problems are related to strongly typed, strictly typed, extensibility and all. That's the reason Google started one language called EtScript. They started designing a language EtScript to replace JavaScript. When they started this EtScript, Google people, they were designing that for which one? Angular. For Angular, they were designing that. Then what happened is Microsoft people, they saw that Google is trying some new language. Then they were very much surprised because Microsoft is already having such language. They were very much surprised with Google approach, saying that why you are doing this? We already have this. That means Google was trying a new language called EtScript, which already similar to that Microsoft already have with them. But it is internally used by Microsoft. It is not known to public. That means developers don't know about it, but internally Microsoft have it. They were using it. Internally for their applications, they were using it. Actually, an architect by name Anders Hazelberg, yeah. Anders Hazelberg. This person, actually, he is the architect of a .NET language called C#. He is the main architect of a language called C#. C# is one .NET language. Anders Hazelberg is the architect of that language. In the current market, the top level OOP languages, 3: C++, C# and Java. These are the world's popular languages, even which is used in gaming applications. C# is very popularly used in gaming applications also. And all Microsoft technologies are built with this. Web applications, desktop applications, everything is built by using this language. And do you know, surprisingly, Windows is built with .NET. If you don't know, Windows is built with .NET framework. It is a .NET product. Windows, Microsoft Windows is operating system is built with that. It uses VC++ as a language, Visual C#, Visual C++ .NET. That is for Notepad, WordPad, MS Word, Paint. All these are designed by using those languages. It is an official .NET framework. And technically, these people already have a language called TypeScript. Anders Hazelberg designed this TypeScript to use with the support of C# and the framework called ASP.NET. They have a web framework called ASP.NET. For that, they were using this TypeScript internally because they were already facing this problem with JavaScript. So they developed it. So Microsoft people saw that Google is trying a language which is similar to that. Then they asked Google people to take a look on this language, and Google was very much satisfied with that language, and they stopped this now. They stopped this. But what is problem is Microsoft is not a player of open source at that time. Now it is. Means 10 years back, Microsoft was not a player of open source. That means their products are not open source. That is one big drawback of Microsoft early days. After Satya Nadella took over, he made cloud and everything open source. Then Microsoft started its major boom in the cloud technologies and all. Because Satya Nadella is the main architect of cloud technology. He is the prime architect of cloud technology. Why he was chosen as CEO of Microsoft? Because of his profile, because he is genius in cloud architecture, and future of software industry is cloud. And they know that. Microsoft knows that he can guide very well in that area. That's the reason. The point is, from there onwards, they started majority open source. Earlier, Microsoft is not open source. Developers are afraid of using Microsoft technologies because it is not open source. After that, they started making it open source. They earlier they were not even cross-platform. Later, they started making it cross-platform, so run on every device, everywhere, and all. Then this Google people waited so many years for Microsoft to make this TypeScript as open source. That is the reason Angular in the beginning days, because they stopped at script. In the beginning days, they started with JavaScript only. They were waiting for Microsoft to make it as open source. After 1-2 years, Microsoft made it as open source and immediately Google adapted it. That means Google started using. That means people who are learning language framework like Angular, they are dealing with two communities, Google and Microsoft. Because Angular belongs to Google, the language used by Angular TypeScript belongs to Microsoft. TypeScript is an official Microsoft language. Then what is the specialty of the TypeScript? That means actually TypeScript is strictly typed mode of JavaScript. TypeScript is strictly typed mode of JavaScript. Strictly typed mode of JavaScript. So designed by Anders Hazelberg. Designed by Anders Hazelberg. And the prime architect of a language of C# language. So he designed this C# language at Microsoft. So TypeScript is there before world knows about TypeScript. Internally, Microsoft is using it. So it is strongly typed. So it is strictly typed, implicitly strictly typed, implicitly strictly typed. It is an OOP language. That means it supports all the features of OOP, object-oriented programming. And one of the problem, you remembered already, I told you while working with classes. What is the problem with OOP? What are the issues with OOP? So OOP languages will not support low-level features. They cannot directly interact with hardware services. They use more memory. They are tedious. I explained those points, why we are not preferring classes as components, right? Now, do you know the specialty of TypeScript? So it is TypeScript is built with TypeScript. That is the specialty of TypeScript. That means it supports low-level features. And what is the specialty is it can directly interact with hardware services. So it is faster in interactions. So build applications at large scale. That is one important point. That means TypeScript is not like other OOP languages that you have. TypeScript supports low level features. Actually, Java or C Sharp or other languages, they are built with other languages. That means they use the base of C, C++ like programming. They are built with C, C++ like programming. But TypeScript is built with TypeScript. Why they are built with other programming platforms? Java is not directly understandable to OS, operating system. Actually, it uses an intermediate language internally. So, but TypeScript can directly interact with hardware. That means operating system can directly understand TypeScript. That is the specialty of TypeScript. So, even compiler is built in TypeScript. Generally, compiler is built in a language which is low level, which is understandable to operating system. But TypeScript compiler is built in TypeScript because operating system can directly understand. So remember, TypeScript is a very huge language. It is individually used to build large scale applications. You are learning TypeScript only for web. Don't think that you are learning TypeScript. You are learning TypeScript only for web. Even Google, Angular, all these people use TypeScript only for web. For web, what they need from TypeScript, they are utilizing it. They are not using complete TypeScript. Complete TypeScript individually is just like Java and .NET languages, which can build a complete app. A large scale business apps also we can build by using only TypeScript. It's a huge language. But React, Angular, Vue, all these technology people use TypeScript only for web. That doesn't mean that they are completely aware of TypeScript. Because completely aware of TypeScript, you have to learn like your Java or .NET languages. Because it's a huge one. We are learning TypeScript only for web. That means to replace JavaScript we are using. Individually, it is very huge. It is huge. How it works, let's see how the TypeScript actually works. You need to understand TypeScript architecture. TypeScript architecture. You need to understand the TypeScript architecture, how actually TypeScript is going to work. The basic TypeScript architecture, I will show you what actually TypeScript comprises of. So this is the basic TypeScript architecture. So this is the evolution of TypeScript. TypeScript was first introduced in October 1, 2012. That was the first release. Actually, Angular came in 2014. Angular JS was there in 2010, but they were using only JavaScript. In 2014, Angular came. And they started using TypeScript as a language, which was built before that. So it was there from early. So, actually, this is Anders Hazelberg, the architect of TypeScript and the architect of .NET. .NET language called C Sharp. .NET has so many languages and frameworks. He is the architect of prime language called C Sharp. So, and TypeScript, he is the architect of TypeScript language. And this is the basic architecture of TypeScript. TypeScript comprises of all these things internally. What are these and how they work? We need to understand to use the TypeScript. So, what are the components of TypeScript? See at the bottom, TypeScript have a core compiler. core compiler. What is the job of core compiler is actually the core compiler internally have so many other components. When you write a program in TypeScript, the core compiler is going to verify whether the syntaxes are correct, whether the keywords are correct, whether the approach is correct, and if there are any problems, it will report. That means the core compiler is responsible for so many activities. Observe carefully. In the core compiler, you can see there are so many files. There is a core TS file. There is a core TS, program TS, scanner, parser, checker, emitter. Actually, you may be hearing about this for the first time, but these are all there in general, all languages. Every computer programming languages compiler have them. You may be first time knowing about them because you don't know what is there in a compiler. You just know about a compiler, but very few architects only know that what is there in a compiler, how compiler works. That means in your Java or .NET, you are told with only, you are delivered with only one concept. This is a compiler and it will do this. But architects need to understand what is inside the compiler, who manages activities in compiler. Every technology have, but every technology will not teach you that. These are general in every technology. But what is the purpose of this? But do you know in if you have languages like C language, you have an option called scanf function. Scanf is a function. What is scanf? Scanf is used to read the input. Printf is used for output. Output is printf. Scanf is input. Why input is called scanf? Why input is called scanf? It should say input f. That will be better, na? Why input f? Why it is scanf? Because in a compiler, there is a scanner which handles the input activities. That means every compiler have a scanner that manages input activities. Whatever user inputs, it will scan the input and it will read the input. That is done by scanner.ts. All the input activities are managed by scanner. All the output activities are managed by emitter. Emitter is responsible for output and scanner is responsible for input. Verifying the data types, and because strongly typed language means reference type and its data type and value type. Verifying which value you are storing in which type. That is all done by using this checker. Checker is going to verify what is your data type and what is the data you are storing in that type. It is going to verify. If there is a problem in the reference and data type, then checker is going to show you the error, saying that the data type is not matching. Converting one type to another is done by parser. Parser is going to translate one data type to another. And this program.ts, it is going to handle the program structure. It is going to handle program structure. Program structure means you started a curly brace. You are missing a curly brace. That means a block is not ending. Where a block starts, where a block ends, is that block correctly configured or not? This is all verified by program.ts. Program.ts is going to verify the syntaxes. If there is any issue in the syntaxes, then it will report. Core.ts ts is going to verify the keywords. If, else, for, while, do while, class, these are all keywords. If you are using suppose a class, if you are using suppose a class like this, then it will show invalid. Why it will show invalid? Because class C must be lowercase. Lowercase. That means verifying the keywords, configuring the keywords, whether you are using the correct keywords or not. It is all managed by core. Every compiling system have this. So TypeScript core compiler contains all this. That means the TypeScript language is translated by a core compiler. Okay, translation completed. Can browser understand TypeScript? No, browser can understand only JavaScript. This TypeScript language, which is successfully compiled, need to be again translated into JavaScript. That is done by standalone compiler. Two compilers will be there. You may have a doubt like why two compilers are there in TypeScript. One compiler checks your code, another compiler will translate it into JavaScript. One is a trans compiler, that is standalone compiler, TSC, TypeScript standalone compiler. What is the responsible of core compiler? Verify your program structure, verify your syntaxes, verify your keyboard input and output activities, verify your conversions and all. And once it is verified successfully, now the translation of TypeScript into JavaScript is done by which one? Standalone compiler. Standalone compiler. We have two compilers. Core compiler, another one standalone compiler. So first in the TypeScript architecture, we have the core compiler. Core compiler. In the core compiler, we have the options core.ts. So it checks the language keywords. Program.ts. It checks the code structure and syntax. So we have a scanner.ts. It handles input. Emitter.ts. It handles output. And ts. It handles data conversion. Checker.ts. It verifies the reference and value types. Right. These are all the important. Standalone compiler. This core compiler is actually core.ts. Standalone compiler is tsc.ts. It transcompiles the TypeScript code into JavaScript. It transcompiles TypeScript code into JavaScript. So we have two compilers in the TypeScript. Now, another important, you are having a language service, service.ts, services.ts. And I don't need to explain what is a service. You know about a service. What is a service? We learned about services. Service is a predefined business logic. Service is a collection of factories. Factory is a collection of functions and values. A set of functions and values are kept in a factory. A set of factories are kept in a service. I told you, if you remember the point, why we cannot use a factory directly. Why? Because factory also contains set of functions. Why we cannot use a factory directly in a component? Because factory uses a single call mechanism. Service uses a single turn mechanism. This all you should remember. Because at experience level, React interview means these only. React interviews are not about the concepts in experience level, architecture only. They don't ask what is this, what is that. They will ask how is it, how is that. What is for fresher, how is for experience. That means what is a compiler, that is fresher. Which compiler, that is fresher. How compiler works, that is experience. So many people come and ask, sir, will you give experience level interview questions and answers? That is a silly question. Why? Because that means you are not justifying your experience. Because experience people should know that when they show experience in a resume, the interview happens on that resume only. That means in resume, what projects you kept. In that project, what role and responsibility you kept. In that role and responsibility, what you have done. Questions will be on that. 90% experience level questions will be on his resume. That means, okay, you developed you worked on a project on React. So for this project in React, which form library you used? Why you used that form library? While using that form library, what issues you got? How you resolved those issues? So why your company not preferring other library? Why it is using specifically this library? Such questions they ask. That is experience level. What do you think on internet? Some experience questions, answers will be there. You get prepared and the interviewer will ask only those. He knows more internet than you. He Googles more than you. Interviewer will not ask the experience questions, answers from internet. Right? Many people do this silly thing. Like they say that experience interview questions and answers. Experience interview questions, and what do you think? It is a question bank to prepare. And he will ask the questions from that question bank. So software is not like that. Experienced people means your profile interview will happen. What projects you kept, why you kept, so what is your role in that role, why you used them, why not others. All question will be relative to that. For fresher, all concept based will come. So architecture wise, you need to know something. So what is the purpose of service.ts is nothing but actually it provides all functions and values required for TypeScript. TypeScript related all functions and values are provided by what? Language service. TypeScript have some built-in functions, so it has some built-in values. These are all provided by a language service. Language service. That is language service. Another important you are having a server. So TS server. So this is server.ts. What is the job of a server? I don't need to explain. You already know what a server does. It hosts your TypeScript language and compiles and sets environment for build, debug, test, and deploy. It will set environment for all of them. What is the job of a server? You know, servers are responsible for setting an environment where you can build, you can debug, you can test, you can deploy. You have development environment, quality environment, and production environment. That environments are set by server. So your TypeScript programs are compiled, executed on a server, TS server, TypeScript server. Another important, you have a VS shim. Actually, shimmer.ts. We have shims.ts. And again, this is not a new concept. Suppose you people, if you know Java, .NET like technologies, there also shims will be there. But very few people may have an idea about that. What is the purpose of a shim in any programming language? Java have shims. But very few people will discuss about the shim concept. Not required. For general people, it is not required. But Java have a shim library, shims. Suppose shim APIs will be there. Suppose Java shim library. This is Java shim library. This is a shim library for Java. You will have shim libraries for Java, shim tools for Java, but very few people know. What is the shim library? What is the concept of shim? A shim library mapping in Java 8 classes, some options will be there. Actually, what is this shim library? What is the concept of shim? Actually, the concept of shim is nothing but shim. This word is derived from shrimps. Shrimp. It is derived from a shrimp. So, you know, you have prawns, prawns and shrimps are present. What is difference between them? Don't know. They look alike. Actually, shim is derived from that word. Suppose I will show you prawn and shrimp. You see the images, if you look at the images, prawn and shrimp, actually they too look similar. You may think both are same. But do you know the difference? Prawn and shrimp both look same. Do you know what is the speciality of shrimp? Shrimp is gender neutral. Gender neutral. So neither male or female. Your Java is also gender neutral. Why gender neutral means platform neutral. It can run on every environment. If anybody says that my technology is platform neutral, it can run on every operating system because of shim. That shim library makes the language platform neutral so that it can run on every operating system. Internally, that shim is used. So Java, .NET, C# like languages, they have shim libraries. They already have a shim library. And you may not know because you don't need to know. Because people who built the technology, they use it to make it platform independent. That means how your language is understandable to every operating system. Internally, who is going to translate the code like that? That is all maintained by a shim. If any technology claims that it is language platform neutral, that is because of a library called shim. Shim library. So this shim, so it is a library. used to make uh, TypeScript platform cross-platform. It is a library used to make TypeScript cross-platform so that it can run on every operating system services. Actually, we will have a managed language service. We have a managed language service. Managed language service. Managed language service. We have a language service and there is a managed language service. There is a managed language service also. What is this managed language service is nothing but it comprises of cross-platform platform. It comprises of cross-platform functions and values. What is language service? Language service is platform dependent. Managed language service is platform independent. Usually what happens in compiling system is, generally in all such languages, suppose developer writes code. This code is called unmanaged code. Unmanaged code. Unmanaged code means what happens? It is translated. That means it is compiled. When it is compiled, what happens is it is compiled for specific operating system. That means you have a Windows, you have like Linux, you have like Mac. That means what will happen is it is compiled for that operating system. If it is compiled for that operating system, it will work only for that operating system. This code is called unmanaged. Generally, after compiling, this code is converted into another code. We generally call this as managed. When the code is after compiling, when it is converted to managed code, it is understandable to every operating system. Before converting into unmanaged code means before converting it is unmanaged code. After converting it is managed. You have unmanaged code platform dependent. So managed code platform independent. Every operating system service can understand the managed code. The unmanaged code is translated into managed. That is the basic architecture followed by every cross-platform environment. Actually, because TypeScript is built by whom? Microsoft people, and the architect of TypeScript, actually, I will show you. It is a .NET architecture actually. This is the basic architecture. So this is the basic compiling architecture of .NET languages. And TypeScript follows the similar architectural concept. So that means you return the language, it is compiled by compiler, which is unmanaged. This is taken by managed code and convert that managed code into the native code, which is understandable to every operating system. That is how the Microsoft languages architecture works in the background. Majority TypeScript uses same architecture because TypeScript is built for them actually. It uses similar architecture. So unmanaged and managed. So managed language service is that. Technically that is the managed language service. So this is all the infrastructure. Editor is just an point actually. Editor means it have a support for all editors. It can run on different types of editors. So installing TypeScript, because TypeScript will not directly work. We have to install. Now we will see how to install TypeScript and how TypeScript is different from JavaScript. If you know the differences, then we can build a project with TypeScript in React. That we'll see in next session. Tomorrow we will continue. Tomorrow we will start language of TypeScript. That means you will understand the differences between JavaScript and TypeScript. Tomorrow we'll continue. Okay, right.